Hello there, this is Rafe again from Reach Me Faster. We are a digital marketing agency specializing in generating new patients for dental and medical practices using Google Adwords and Facebook advertising. So in this video, I'd like to address this very common question that we get is about Google Adwords, whether it's suitable for your practice. And so I wanted to address this question quickly and basically explain how we go about determining whether Google advertising is suitable for a prospect or prospective client or not. So let's quickly take a look at how you can check whether Google advertising makes sense for your practice or not. So the tool that you're going to use is Keyword Planner. It's a free tool inside your AdWords account. Now you can register an AdWords account and get access to this tool. However, Google withholds some information. If you are not advertising, they do not show you the actual search volume, they show you a range. So that's a little bit of a problem. But if you're already spending some money on Google advertising, then Google allows you to see the actual searches, and so they give you more data, more accurate data, and so that therefore you can get a better estimate and better judgment of whether Google advertising makes sense for your practice or not. So the two main criteria that you have to look at is the search volume, and you're looking for a minimum of 2,000 searches per month for the main local keyword. So the main local keyword, let's say for example your practice is located somewhere in San Jose, so dentist San Jose, best dentist San Jose, family dentist San Jose, dental office San Jose, something, basically the main core keywords, the primary keywords that a prospect or a patient is going to use on Google. And make sure they're local keywords. So San Jose has to be present if your practice is located in San Jose, or if it is located in somewhere else. Then let's say for example Austin, Texas. So dentist Austin, Texas, best dentist Austin, Texas, emergency dentist Austin, Texas, cosmetic dentist Austin, Texas. So like that, you want to make sure that you include the main 8 to 10 local keywords and sum up their search volume and get that number. And that number should be at least 2,000 per month. Ideally more the better. I'll explain why. And then the cost per click, you have to look at the average. So let's say for example if you look at the search volume for 8 to 10 keywords, you got to average it out, and you want to make sure that the cost per click is obviously as low as possible. But what I have given is a range depending upon your location, because across the United States it's a big difference in the standard of living, the cost of living. Let's say if you're in California, for example, you might want to pay $15 per click, but if you're somewhere in Florida or Texas, $8 per click is enough. $8 to $10 per click is maximum you're going to pay. Anything more than that is going to be too expensive. What we have been able to do over the last 3-4 years after working in this Google advertising for dentists, managing several dozen campaigns, and what we have been able to do is to create a campaign where we can get you new patients for every 20-25 clicks. So I guess you can say that if you optimize the campaign very well, you can expect to get new patients for every 20 clicks, and so based on that you can work out do the math and work out whether that cost per new patient is going to be feasible for your practice or not. So for example at $8, that would work out to $160 per new patient, which is it's on the higher side, but as long as they're getting treatment, it's fine for most geographic locations. However, if you're located in, let's say, high-end area, perhaps you might want to pay a little bit more. Something like $12 per click would be fine. So that's why you want to make sure that the cost per click is something that you're willing to pay based on the factor that I gave you. 20 to 25 clicks is equal to 1 new patient. That is after campaign is optimized. So that is the best case scenario. Okay, so now how do you check the search volume? Now this is the Keyword Planner tool I have open, and over here we have different keywords, the location, the targeting United States, and this is some negative keywords. I use some general negative keywords. but you don't have to use them. And then make sure you select only show ideas closely related, so that other keywords don't mess your data. And oh, by the way, this is the old version of the keyword planner. The new version is slightly different, and it does not have this nicely laid out. I prefer this version, so that's why I'm working. But if you find that a new version of keyword planner pops up, well, then you can go back to the old version. And the current version obviously does not have this layout, but this layout is easier to explain, so that's why I'm using it. So over here you can see a lot of variation. These are all cities from the state of Texas, and there's massive variation in terms of search volume, in terms of the suggested bid. So Austin, for example, gets 2,900 searches, and while the lowest is Fort Worth. Now, of course, Fort Worth is a much bigger city than Austin, and it does actually get much more than 720 searches per month. It's just that this keyword is getting 720. Obviously, dentist Fort Worth and other keywords, best dentist Fort Worth, general dentist Fort Worth, and you combine all of them, you'll get a pretty decent search volume. But you can see the cost per click is quite high, $26, $27, whereas in Austin it's only $9. So essentially, if your practice is located in Fort Worth, you have to pay 3 times the amount a dentist in Austin has to pay to advertise on Google. And similarly, let's say if you were in Houston, which is again a large city, you only have to pay 12. But if you're in Frisco, you have to pay 17. If you're in Arlington, you have to pay $19 per click. And if you're in Conroe, you have to pay $25 per click, compared to Dallas, where you only have to pay 10. So you can see there's a lot of variation depending upon obviously the competition, the available search volume, and you have to figure out whether this makes sense for you to advertise or not. So the 2 factors to keep in mind is search volume and cost per click. So let's look at the 4 scenarios that are possible. Now, before we look at the 4th scenario, I want to stress upon an important point. The cost per click can be managed by optimizing, by changing the campaign settings, by using some tricks and methods and strategies. You can reduce the cost per click, or you can manage it and somehow make it possible, make it work. You can improve the conversion rate to make the high cost per click work. But the search volume is out of your control. You cannot control the number of people that are searching for a dentist in your location, or for your location, for your city. That's out of your control completely. And so therefore the limiting factor is always the search volume is the limiting factor. And so the worst case scenario is if you have a low search volume and high cost per click. That is the worst case scenario. And if you come across a situation over here, like for example Conroe, Texas, $25 per click, and then 880. And Conroe is not a large city, so it doesn't have a lot of related searches either. So if you come across a situation like this, then you have to conclude that there is no way that Google advertising is going to work for your office, because it's going to be too expensive and it's going to deliver very few patients, if any, to be honest, because 880 is not a lot of search volume, especially if you consider it across the whole month. So that was the worst case scenario. But what about the best case scenario? Best case scenario is you have a high search volume and low cost per click. So that's like we saw, Austin. So from a nightmare scenario, you've got a, daydreaming scenario, I guess, where you're essentially, got a lot of searches, and the cost per click is so low that if you are not advertised, if you're a dentist in Austin and you see this, well then, and if you're not advertising, then you're losing out essentially. I would argue you're losing out, because let's say you can get 20 for every 20 clicks you get a new patient. You can get plenty of new patients over here from this search volume. And obviously there's related searches as well, so don't forget to count them as well. Cosmetic dentist, best dentist, emergency dentist, and other searches that you'll find for the major cities. So this is the worst case, this is the best case scenario, this is the worst case scenario, and then you have situations in between, like for example Arlington, Texas, where there is high search volume and high cost per click. Okay, so the blue one is good. If you come across this number scenario, then you should definitely try Google AdWords, and it should work for you. There's like no reason why it should not work for you. And if you come across the situation number 4, well, then you should avoid AdWords at all costs, because there's very little reason for it to work. It's really difficult for you to make it work, or for anyone to make it work. But then in between there's second and third scenario, where second is high search volume, which is good, but high cost per click, which is not so good. And then you have the third scenario, which again it's problematic, is the low search volume, but the benefit is that the cost per click is lower as well. So what do we do when you are confronted with a second scenario? So high search volume, high cost per click. The goal is to get a lower cost per click. So how do you do that? Well, you improve your quality score and click-through rate. So when you do that, Google rewards you with a lower cost per click. Okay, and so that is how you will get a lower cost per click. Because over here the problem is not the search volume. The problem is the cost per click is too high, and you don't want to pay that high amount. You want to lower it. You want to pay under 8, let's say. And the cost per click, let's say for example over here, it was Houston, it was 12. 12 is slightly more than you would want to pay per click. So what you can do is, because there's high search volume, you can there's no problem. You can advertise as much as you want. The only problem is the cost per click is high, so you want to reduce the cost per click and still be able to get all those clicks. And to do that, you will need a higher quality score. Well, another thing that you can do is that because the cost per click is high, you can run ads after hours and bid low. Why? Because most offices run ads during the business hours, during office hours, let's say 8 to 6, 8 to 5. So after 6 p.m., essentially, there's very few advertisers. In some markets, there are many still advertising after hours, but it gives you an opportunity, because people do not suddenly stop searching after 6 p.m. They do search, is that fewer dentists are advertising during that time, and so this gives you an opportunity to bid low and get those clicks and capture those patients that are searching during after hours. And why you can do that? Because the search volume is high, so there's enough searches being performed, so you can afford to bid low so that maximum number of people see your ad. And obviously, since your ad is not going to be placed at the top because you're bidding low, your ad is going to be, let's say for example, in third position, so it will get a lower click-through rate. It will get few people clicking the ad, but because there's high number of people searching, you will still be able to capture enough clicks to generate enough patients at a feasible cost, because you're bidding low. And then the other trick you can use is target a larger area and again combine with a low bid. So let's say for example over here Arlington. Now Arlington is present basically between Fort Worth and Dallas, and I mean this entire area, Dallas Fort Worth is a huge massive area, and so there is lots of small towns, small to medium towns in between, which have their own search volumes. There's Catty, there's a lot actually, if I go about, because I have worked in this entire area. In fact, I have run campaigns in pretty much all these cities except a few, so I'm very familiar. But especially Dallas Fort Worth, it's a very heavily populated area, a lot of movement in between as well. So Arlington essentially is at the center, and so even though the cost per click is $19, you can bid, let's say for example $10, and then add some cities nearby, small towns and cities that are adjacent to Arlington, and try to capture those patients. Okay, because that will again give you more searches. So it may be 1,600 from Arlington, and then other related searches you might get another 1,000. But what about some small cities around Arlington? You can capture another 1,600, 2,000 search volume from there, And since you're bidding low, you can expect a low number of clicks, but then obviously since there are so many cities around, you can capture all those clicks and get a higher volume of clicks at a lower cost. High volume clicks at low cost. Why? Because you have targeted a larger area and you have kept the bid low. Okay, so that will help you get clicks at a lower cost per click, and achieve your target, whatever the cost per acquisition is. You don't obviously want to pay $70 per click, so definitely that is going to reduce the ROI. So target a larger area and bid low. And then we covered how to reduce the cost per click, but then there is another scenario which is a little bit tricky actually. And the reason why I say tricky is because the search volume, again, you have to be careful, because this is something you cannot control no matter how much expertise you have in Google advertising, or because it's out of your control. The cost per click you can manage, you can apply some strategies, you can apply some optimization, you can change the campaign settings, you can run ads longer, you can run ads to a larger area. But search volume, it's out of control. There is no setting you can change inside AdWords to change this factor. So this is a little bit tricky, and although this can work, what I will tell you is that most of the cancellations we get is because of low search volume. And I would say that, let's say for example, in the last 12 months, if we had 5, 6, 7 cancellations, or clients who do not continue beyond, let's say, a couple of months, the reason is the low search volume most of the time. And 70% of the time it's low search volume, because there's not enough people in the locations that you're targeting searching for a dentist, and so you're not getting enough clicks. Even though the cost per click is fine, the client is just not be able to spend the money because there's no searches, or there's not enough searches. So this one is slightly difficult to judge actually, because the statistics in the keyword planner tool are averages. They do not take into account the time of the year. It's a 12-month average. So sometimes it can be accurate, other times, like sometimes they overestimate, sometimes they underestimate, so it's not 100% accurate. So this one is a little bit difficult to judge. However, the benefit over here is the cost per click is low, and so you can aim for the top spot, because that would give you enough clicks to generate enough new patients. So the trick over here is, or the limiting factor is, the low search volume. So how do you get a high volume of clicks? Well, you improve your quality score and click-through rate. So that again, that's a repetition. You improve that. Not only will Google reward you with a lower cost per click, it will also reward you with a higher ad position, and that's what you want. A higher, more visible position will get you more clicks. So you need a higher quality score so that you can attract more clicks by securing the top spot on the Google search results page. Now the other thing you can do is run ads after hours and bid high. So this is different, where you were bidding low because you wanted a lower cost per click. Over here the cost per click is not a problem, so you can afford to bid higher than the average cost per click. But over here you're chasing those impressions, you're chasing those clicks, because the clicks are few and far between because of low search volume. So you have to run ads after hours in order to capture those extra little bit of clicks, so that you can get that extra 3-4 patients during the course of the month. An extra 1 or 2 patients every week can go a long way if you can run ads after hours. That means you have to obviously answer calls after hours, so you have to arrange something. And the trick is you have to bid higher than the average, and you run the ads as long as possible to give maximum number of people the chance to see your ad and to click on it and to call or fill out the form. Okay. And then obviously the third situation is similar to the previous one, is to target a larger area and again bid high. So for example over here, if actually we don't have this situation over here, so I would have shown you Texas is a pretty populated place, so there is no city where the cost per click is low and the search volume is also low. Let me see if we can find something. let's take it catty. Let's look at catty. Obviously, the search volume is slightly low. The cost per click, let's assume it's low. So in this case, catty is near Houston. So perhaps you might want to target certain zip codes around Houston or maybe around catty. I know for sure catty has, some pockets of population around it. So definitely you can target within 10 miles any cities, any towns, any zip codes, and then that would allow you to increase the search volume from 1300, 1500 to maybe 3000, 4000. And cost per click, again, you can afford to bid. If you can afford to bid $13, $14, $15 per click, that would allow you to get those extra patients, the extra clicks rather. That would obviously help you get those extra patients. So that is the third scenario, where it's slightly tricky and it's difficult to judge, but still possible to make AdWords work for your practice. And so that concludes basically the 4 scenarios that you're going to face. And I hope this video would help a lot of people understand how to determine whether Google AdWords will work for them or not. If you have any questions, obviously you can post on Dental Town Marketing Forums. I visit the forum several times a week. So if you have an AdWords question, you can message me or you can post on the marketing forums, and I'll probably reply within a few days. Or you can email me at support@reachmefaster.com, or you can call me at this number 941-462-4899. However, keep in mind that there's a time zone difference, so I suggest you email me any questions or requests, because that way I can always get back to you. Whereas in phone, I may not answer the phone because of the time zone difference with the North America. So I hope that this presentation was useful, and if you have any questions, obviously my contact information is given.